You're listening to Chillworthy,
a podcast where two best friends discuss mysteries, murders, and anything in between for your enjoyment.
So if you're ready to hear some chilling and unsettling cases, you're in the right place. Happy listening.
Hi, everybody. Welcome back to our podcast, Chillworthy, with Brent and Talia.
Hey, everyone.
How are you?
Good. How you doing?
I'm doing very well.
Wonderful. Me too.
Yeah, good. How's your weekend?
Fine. I went to a fish expo.
Did you?
I did.
And did you get anything?
Just some driftwood and one little shrimp.
Oh, shrimpy.
So.
Do you name the shrimp?
No.
Okay.
I don't name any of the fish because I'm still kind of new to it.
Right.
Not new to it in life, but new to it in this era.
Yeah, I was going to say,
I've taken like
ago.
a decade break. And I originally lost one of my guppies, and
God bless.
Right, and I didn't want to name any of the others until I just feel a little more secure into what's happening. But I also feel like, I have a new tank going up, and that's even going to be a bigger tank. And,
like additional to this one.
Right, and I'm not going to name all 30 of those. There's not even a way to, I'm just not going to do it. Right.
You could put the little bands on their little, I don't know what, like birdie ankles,
Like what they do to sharks.
Oh, don't even say it. Now, this was one shrimp yesterday, or how many shrimp did you get?
I bought one.
Yeah.
And then a little surprise in the bag, a little baby was in there.
A little
smaller
baby
than a
shrimp.
little grain of rice.
Oh my gosh.
So I gently placed him into the tank and made sure he made his way into the shrubbery.
Is the baby translucent or is it? Yeah. Wow.
So
an angel.
But now I feel like joke's on me because the friend I was with yesterday, she was like, "Oh, why don't you get different colors?" And I was like, if you get different colors, apparently if they breed, they start to revert back to their natural coloring. Like they're not going to stay red or blue or yellow. If a blue and a yellow mix, they're going to start going back to their wild genes, if you will. Mm-hmm. When I told her that there was a baby in the bag, she was all excited. And I said, but my luck, it's not going to be a red one. It'll be a yellow or a blue and then grow up and start spitting out wild, like gray and brown ones, which is fine, minus the fact that the pet store that I get them from was like, if you do start having babies, you can always sell them back to us. And I'm thinking, well, that would be nice, but they're not going to want brown or gray ones. They want the ones that are striking for the fact that, people want like the ornamental looking ones.
Right.
So
you got to see where the wind blows them.
I guess.
Right.
But I hope he or she survives in there.
I'm sure. It's like a freaking gorgeous sanctuary.
Mm-hmm. So how was your weekend?
Good. Busy with some outdoor cleanup situations. Very lovely. I mean, I feel like it is supposed to be warmer this coming week, but compared to how it's been, this weekend has been on the, obviously it's still cold out, but like warmer, cold, super sunny. So it was very nice being out there. It's nice, refreshing.
Good.
What's happening with you with books?
Nothing really,
Yeah.
sadly. I've taken a hiatus, I guess.
Okay.
I was trying to get through a book on Libby, and I just didn't have the gumption to make it before they snatched it away from me.
Now, the one that we talked about last, though, where you had to finish it like that afternoon.
Oh, no, that one was done.
Yeah.
That one was...
On a Quiet Street? No.
No. That was like a...
Way far back.
Yeah.
This was the scary one. It was called like Chiller. No, we're called Chillworthy. It's not that. Heinous. Something.
It was...
one word.
Creep.
Yes.
Creep by Jennifer Hillier, I think, which was fantastic.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I finished that one, and then I came to find out that she actually wrote a trilogy on it.
Oh, wow.
So now I'm on Freak, which is a continuation of Creep, but I'm only like a chapter in. But in between there, I was trying to listen to this other book, and like it was okay, but I just wasn't as drawn into it, so I wasn't going as fast. And sadly, I didn't make it to the end, so I feel like I shan't even name it because it won't give it, it wasn't a bad book. So I feel like if I revisit it and I actually finish it, I will then disclose it.
Okay.
So.
All right. I'm still waiting. Speaking of this scenario, I'm waiting with bated breath for Orbital to come back as available. Well, not available, but I'm on the list for that because I only got I forget how close to the end I got, annoyingly close that I then lost it. So, but in the meantime, I started reading 5-Star Stranger, which did not get the best reviews, but I was super sucked into the description. So it's basically, I was going to say futuristic, but I don't know how future. I mean, I think relatively current. And it's not a dating app, but I shouldn't say basically. It's like similar to a dating app, but the app it consists of these rental strangers. So you can literally rent these people for anything except dating and sex. So like to go to the fish fair, you want somebody to go with you. To go to a wedding is your +1. To go to a funeral with you. This one example was this girl had an appointment at the abortion clinic, and like she wanted it to appear that this was not like a fling situation, and she became pregnant. Like she wanted him to appear as like her partner.
Right.
This one woman is divorced and she has a little girl, and she wants to introduce the idea to the little girl, like she's going to start dating. So like this guy was just like to see how that would go.
Sounds nice.
Right. So his longest client, and you don't know his name because like with all of these client situations, like he says to them, like, what do you want my name to be? They don't ever know his real name. They name him for whatever the scenario is. Oh, also like men will have him as like their wingman in like social situations and at bars and stuff. That's one of the things. So his longest client, which is like almost going on 10 years, is this. It's a single mother, and she has this little girl who's now 10, about to be 10. And this little girl thinks this is her dad. Like she thinks that he's an over-the-road truck driver, and she only sees him once a week, and he picks her up from school and like makes dinner and will clean up around the house. And the mom is like borderline alcoholic, has like a pretty rough job, like is just strapped financially, but makes this work. But it's getting trickier that the little girl is obviously older and like understands, the way of the world to a degree, and like has questions now. And
right.
She's like kind of suspicious of things. So the reviews on Goodreads, like it only got like 7%, 5 stars. 4 stars, I forget. It was like higher, but still pretty low. But the reviews, I read some of the 3-star ones, and it was saying how like it fell flat at the end and like didn't have a great ending, and that this book sounded in the description like very lighthearted and like it would be a lighter read, and it's like a very, very sad book.
Oh,
which
that's good.
Which I was delighted, and it sure is. He like talks about his history with like his mom, but it's like a lonely life. Like he has no friends, he has no partner. Like how could he? Like he has no time. He's constantly going from like one of these quote unquote jobs to the next.
Yeah.
It's just very interesting, and I'm loving it.
Well, you heard it here first, folks.
So yes, I don't know where my phone is. Could you look up 5-Star Stranger to tell the chillers who the author is? I want to say her name is like Katie.
Kat. K-A-T. First name, last name, T-A-N-G.
Great. Thank you.
Like the drink.
Oh my God. I never had it. Did you?
Me either.
Yeah.
But I've heard it's been referenced on the Golden Girls many times. So anyway, everybody, it is Talia's turn to present a case today. So without further ado, I'll let her take it away.
Thank you. And I also wanted to thank you. We told the chillers, I don't know how many episodes ago, that I was due to do an episode, and then I never did. So thank you. Things were a little hectic. I appreciate you doing those.
A few in a row, sure.
Yes. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay.
So what's your case today?
Well, so Ashley and I, there was a night recently, we had talked about it, maybe even last time, I forget now how long ago this was, but the wind was insane.
Oh, yes.
So we couldn't sleep, and we used to watch Forensic Files, and we haven't watched it in years. So we can't sleep. And the dogs were kind of unsettled by the sounds, so we wanted to keep the TV on. So she puts Forensic Files on, and I thought, oh my gosh, we haven't watched this in so long. This is nice. So she puts just a random episode on, and we're watching it. And I thought, do you remember, I think you watched this documentary on Netflix, the huge famous case where the man killed his wife, and it was called The Staircase. That was
I
the
didn't watch it. I mean,
Oh, you
I've heard
didn't?
of it, but...
Okay. So that's what I thought this was, and it was not.
Okay.
So, we obviously continued watching it. And, as we're watching, this one part is the interrogation video of the husband.
Okay.
Which I will be showing you today. And it was so out of control. I'm watching this and I said to Ashley, I have to do this episode. It's not even that crazy of a case, but it just, this video footage was so hysterical to me. And I decided to do the case. So.
All right. Well, there's the origin story for you folks.
This is the case of Kristine Fitzhugh.
That just reminded me of Are You Afraid of the Dark?
Why?
When they were like, this is the story of, Killer Pillow. Yes.
That was the match going out.
Oh, okay.
What'd you think I did?
I thought you were doing when the fire sparked up.
Oh, no.
Because that was always a nice part. I always hated when they would, the camera at the end of the show would, there'd always, if one, this didn't happen all the time, but if one character specifically stayed back to put the fire out, I was like, ugh. What do you do? Everybody
Agreed.
walks out into the woods in different areas to go, home, wherever this woods is centrally located, and that one poor soul is just there dumping, water on the fire, and they're just there by themselves. I hated the way it looked.
Those characters, though, always seemed so nonchalant about putting it out. Nobody seemed worried about being left behind or being the last one there.
I agree.
Good for them.
So
We're actors,
it just looked so much cozier when people were appearing from the woods, coming up to a nice roaring fire, and they're sitting down, versus when everybody starts walking away, and I just don't like it. Anyway, okay, so this is the case of...
Did you like that show?
I liked it, but it was very scary to me.
Hell yeah, I'm shocked to hear
scary.
you say that.
I feel like Goosebumps to me wasn't... It was I get, okay, it's supposed to be spoopy. Spooky. And it was fine. It was spooky. Are You Afraid of the Dark was scary.
Absolutely.
And there were a few episodes where I was like, I can't do this.
Agreed. I would start it and just kind of test things out and get a vibe, if you will. And then there were more times than not, I was like, this is going off. I need some Clarissa Explains It All. That was my freaking favorite show. And I also loved The Secret World of Alex Mack,
Yeah,
which
that
I was
one.
going to say, I could see you
Hell
liking
yeah.
that one. Yeah. God, I love those two shows. I was Clarissa for Halloween one year. I just used my own clothes and my own style. It was nice.
Well, you're a strong, independent woman.
Do you remember when, speaking of my style, when I got this necklace? I don't have it on, but there was a necklace.
I know you don't have it on.
I got, and I was obsessed with it. I still have it. And I wore it to work one day years ago, and I was very cocky about it. And you were did you remember what you said?
I do remember what I said, because it was very chunky and
chunky,
colorful.
And, abstract
Yeah,
artish,
abstract.
I thought. Yes.
I absolutely hated it, and I said, it looks like you got it from Oshkosh Bagosh.
Yes.
Like you were teething.
They have those necklaces that parents can wear, and I love them. I admire the look of them.
I admire them.
Maybe I should invest in one.
Maybe.
I won't be teething on it, but I just think it's a nice look. All right, here we go.
Yes.
So Kristine was a music teacher at the local public school that her children had also attended. This was in Palo Alto, California, by the way.
Okay.
So she was a music teacher.
What grade? What did she teach? What kind of instruments?
Excellent. I said to Ashley this morning, he's going to torment me. He already warned me he was going to do it. I predict about statistics, but probably all sorts of things, and I know I deserve it.
Wonderful.
It's only fair.
And I don't expect you to
Fair's
have all
fair.
these answers, to
Thank
be honest.
you.
You're welcome.
So she was married to Ken Fitzhugh, who was a real estate consultant. Okay, so now we're in 2000. And
Residential, commercial. All right, I am going to stop now, but just so everybody gets a hint of how unnerving,
they hear it.
how unnerving it can be. Because we talk like we know the people. I don't mean we. She talks like I know these people, like they're my neighbors.
Oh my God.
So, okay, please. Her
Thank
husband
you.
wasn't, you're welcome. Her husband was in real estate.
Yes. So that's them. They were like known in the community as being like, they were wealthy and put together and
Affluent.
yes. And house was gorgeous. Lawn was perfectly manicured. Like they had their stuff together and were just very sweet people. Like they were both like described as being perfectionists and very accountable, reliable. He did a lot of work for their neighbors. I didn't totally understand what that consisted of, but like multiple neighbors commented if they ever needed anything, they would reach out to him. But it had to do with something with, I don't even know what, like with their homes, but I don't know what that would be. Maybe just like handyman stuff. I don't know.
Okay.
But people spoke highly of them both. So in 2000, May 2000, he got a call from the school that Kristine failed to show for her 1 p.m. class, which was extremely unlikely. Or
Unlike her.
thank you.
Of course.
She was known for being punctual, and that's just not something that, she would have ever done. So he had no idea where she could have
Like
been.
Warren Barnes.
Yes. Good
Yes.
call. Good call. Exactly.
Precisely.
So Ken, has no idea where on earth she could be. So Ken leaves immediately, goes to the house to check to see if she's there.
Right.
And brings 2 female coworkers with him for this.
Okay.
So they get in the house. Her car is there in the driveway. They get in the house and they're calling for her. And she is at the bottom of the basement stairs, not moving. One of the coworkers calls 911. You can hear the 911 call where they ask if she's breathing. The coworker says it does not appear so. Ken is down there with her. There's just like a pool of blood.
Ooh.
Yeah. And there was a very large bell. I forget what they referred to it as. I mean, huge, like the size of almost like 2 or 3 car tires put together, like a massive bell.
I'll say that's massive.
Right. And it was just stored down in the basement. And
Like the Liberty Bell you're talking?
well,
Like
I
that
was going to
kind of-
say that.
Not the actual Liberty Bell,
Not
but
that big, but yes, correct.
well, just and I'm not asking you to elaborate on this. I'm just making a statement. I think it's a little odd or suspicious that he's going to bring witnesses when he finds his wife.
Yeah, what do you mean?
Well, I just feel like, okay, somebody says, hey, Ashley didn't show up today for work. I don't see many people bringing multiple coworkers back to their house with them to look, look for the spouse. I feel like
So
I feel like it's like he's bringing a witness to show like, oh my God, accident.
like you think he's shady and he did the
Right.
Okay, I see what you're saying.
Yes.
I was gonna say I see it 2 ways. One, very strange, and like you would like if I got that phone call, I would not have time to even react to like have someone come with me. I would just immediately go. But then on the other hand, I was thinking, is he like terrified of what he's gonna find? Not thinking that anyone murdered her, but that like something natural happened and he's gonna go home to find her deceased. He doesn't want to face that himself.
I guess I'm just thinking that's a big jump in my head to just being like, she didn't show up today.
Yeah,
Oh, she's
you're right.
dead. But
Yeah,
again,
good
anyway,
call.
I'm not saying you have to give anything away, so go ahead.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
What was I saying? The bell.
Well,
So the bell.
yeah.
So they thought there was like a theory that, she must have hit her head because it looked as though there was a head injury from the fall. So like, it would make sense she must have hit her head on
the bell.
Bell, correct, because it was right at the bottom of the stairs. And it looked like she was probably carrying like laundry, like she fell into like a heap of dry cleaning, which that kind of struck me as like, well, that's not technically laundry. Like you're claiming she was carrying laundry, but that was dry cleaning literally still in the bags. Like in the pictures you could see when you pick up your dry cleaning, what it looks like in those bags. Like why? But I mean, maybe, I don't know why she'd be bringing them to the basement, but that was strange. And then there were like papers around. So whatever, that could have been anything. The other thing were these shoes. So she was wearing a pair of black shoes and one of the shoes was on, I believe it was the 7th step, and it was kind of like overturned. So Ken immediately kind of offered up like history of these shoes were going to be like the death of her. Like she tripped before in them. Like, interestingly enough, she's wearing these shoes again.
Quite interesting, Ken.
Right.
Very fascinating thing for you to point out. I told her she's always tripping in those shoes. And what shoes does she have on right now? Those very shoes.
So, Ken is brought in for questioning, of course.
So let me just make sure that we're all on the same page here. So you're saying wife doesn't show up for work. Husband gets the call. He comes home with two other coworkers to find her on the bottom of the steps where it looks like she fell in the basement.
Correct.
Laying on clothes.
Yes.
Shoes that
she had a shoe.
Warned before are just plain bad shoes. And one of them's on one of the steps, quite theatrically. And one of them,
listen to you
almost
have your
like
suspicions.
Cinderella. And the other, and then she's on the floor, and then the paramedics come and
she's already passed away.
Okay, that's what I was. Okay,
yes,
so she is deceased.
Correct.
And now the paramedics have taken her away, but now the police want to question the husband.
Yes, Ken goes in for questioning. Kristine goes to the morgue, or her body goes to the morgue. Actually, I'm so sorry. Could you look at your note
You don't
so
have
you
to be.
can see a picture of her?
You don't have to be sorry. I just want you to keep that mic right where it is, because
Did you see I'm getting a little...
yeah, I see. You're pointing the mic at me.
So it's her, and then the next picture is her. It's a very dated photo when the boys were young, but it's her, Ken, and the boys.
What did you say? Was this a recent thing?
It happened in 2000, May of 2000.
Okay. The earlier picture has a very 90s vibe.
Oh, definitely.
And I have such a warm, cozy...
I know.
I freaking love the 90s pictures.
Absolutely.
Ugh,
they have a look.
They do have a look.
There's like a haze, a comfy haze across the
yeah,
mall.
actually, yes.
I remember.
It's like a comfortable, warm haze.
Absolutely. I remember like very positive memories of my mom taking me to like like photo developing shop at this like strip mall near where we lived, and the two men who ran it, I think they were brothers. They were so freaking sweet. I felt like we were always going to this place to have pictures developed, and oh my god, the smell of those freaking chemicals. I loved going there. It was like right up there with gasoline and magic markers. I freaking loved the smell in there. Oh, it was a goodie.
I developed pictures before.
What haven't you done, man?
I'm serious though, like not
I
as a
believe
hobby.
you.
Like when I
In the
worked at a
dark room.
grocery store.
Oh.
They had went back when the grocery stores had a photo department.
Yeah.
So I was at the photo desk for a while.
Wow. So you weren't dipping them in the tubs of the water. You weren't. It wasn't like that.
No, I wasn't in a dark room, but you had to, when you had to take, like when they would give you the camera and you had to get the film out of the camera, you had to put it in a bag so you couldn't see any of what was happening. Wow. And you had to break open the camera in pitch black.
So they wouldn't be overexposed.
Right. And then you had to put it into another thing so that when you took it out, it was still protected from the light. So you were basically working blind while you were doing that. Most fascinating.
How old were you? I never knew you did this.
Well, sometime during college.
Wow.
So, anyway.
Good for you, man. Jack of all trades.
I guess.
Yeah.
All right. Okay. So, yes.
Okay. So, one immediate inconsistency when they checked the phone records was that Ken claimed that he called Kristine on his way to her at the house. He called her cell phone and he called her house. He did not do either of those things. No phone calls.
Why would he?
You are very suspicious of him.
Yeah.
Why?
I don't like the sound of any of it.
Okay. All right. So he claimed that, I think, so convenient that he happened to be looking, like his alibi was he was looking at a vacant property at the time. And
alone.
Correct. So there were no witnesses.
Surely.
In Belmont, which was 40 minutes away. So he said he left their house at 11:30 and went to this vacant property. Now, the thought with Kristine, so at the kitchen table, she has her stuff set up at the table, and she went to, have you ever heard of Pete's Coffee?
Yeah.
So she went to this local coffee shop and got a muffin and a coffee from Pete's and came back to the house. So
sounds nice.
I knew you were going to say that. So her stuff is still sitting at this table. So she went to Pete's at 12:20. So they felt that the time of the assault was anywhere between 12:20 and 1:40 because 1:40 is when the 911 call came through with Ken's coworker. The other thing is Ken floated that, what if this was a burglar that Kristine surprised, because in the last 6 months prior to her murder, there were 6 burglaries in that neighborhood. Still did not catch the person. All the burglaries happened in broad daylight, which is, obviously when she was killed. So Ken felt very strongly that she surprised the burglar, that the burglar didn't know she was home. And
and you might not know this, and that's okay, but those burglaries, they didn't result in murders.
I do know.
Oh.
They did not.
Okay.
So that was an inconsistency. Not an inconsistent. Well, yeah, it didn't add up with.
Well, it wasn't like it was a serial killer burglar. It was just a burglar. Correct. Is what we're saying. Yes.
Correct.
Okay.
So, and nothing was stolen. There was nothing missing from the house.
Alrighty.
Ken is not the sharpest, I feel. I suppose, stressful times. I don't know. Things get faulty. So Kristine's body is at the morgue and they start
autopsying her.
So they start the autopsy and she has 7 lacerations in the back of her head.
Oh.
Not at all consistent with a fall. So that's definitely a red flag. They also find out that she was manually strangled. So quite an intimate way to go, I should say.
Could have been a friend.
Oh my God, I knew you were going to say that too. I was going to say, well, maybe. Oh, that was
someone she knew.
Okay, so then there's a search of Ken's vehicle. And they find a bloody shirt under the driver's seat, a pair of bloody shoes, and a bloody paper towel. So they asked him.
That doesn't sound good.
Well, Ken said there was a gardening accident that Kristine cut herself. They were doing yard work and she accidentally went to grab a gardening tool and cut her hand. And she was bleeding profusely. So the detectives called the morgue. Kristine's body was still there.
Me.
Exactly.
Right.
They check her hands. There was absolutely nothing on her hands.
Outrageous.
Right. So the thing with the sneakers, so there was no blood on the soles of the shoes, and the blood that
These are the car shoes.
Correct.
Yes.
There's no blood on the bottoms of the shoes, but there is blood around the sides of the front, and it's diluted. And apparently diluted blood has a very distinctive pattern and edge. So that led them to believe that would be indicative of someone who did something potentially. If you're hurting someone, killing them, they're bleeding, you're trying to then clean up the blood. That's going to cause the blood to be diluted on the shoe.
Okay.
That was very obvious with how this looked on the shoes to investigators. So they decide, so it's standing out to them. It's odd with the blood in this house. There's no blood. If she died on that, at the bottom of the stairs, she fell on the stairs. Mm-hmm. There was no blood spatter anywhere in this basement. It wasn't on the surrounding walls. It wasn't on the steps. It was only in that bottom location under her body at the bottom. Mm-hmm. So something just doesn't seem right. So they decide to spray luminol in the kitchen. Actually, if you could go to your note.
Oh, yeah.
So if you click that picture where you see the stairs in the blue and then expand it, zoom in, the top is the steps, all of that is the blood on the steps. If you look down where you see in the blue light and it's those spit spot patterns, so those are his shoes. So even though his shoes did not have blood on the soles to the naked eye, those are the shoes he was wearing when he did this, and that's what the imprint was, through the luminol. Now, up here at the top right, very top photo is the blood spatter on the kitchen walls.
Okay.
And then underneath that is the kitchen chair that she was sitting in. So the thought is, well, what happened was he ended up leaving in the morning, came back, parked a little ways away. She got back from her coffee shop. She's sitting at the table. He comes home and surprises her, and he starts bashing her in the back of the head.
Meaning he the husband.
Correct. Yeah. So Ken is our killer. So she's sitting in the chair. That's why the chair is covered. And the reason that the blood was all over the stairs in the basement is he dragged her body down there, himself. So that's why that was there. And there was also a huge pool of blood that the luminol showed at the landing between the kitchen and the basement. So they think that her body was there for quite a while as he was cleaning before he brought her all the way down to the basement.
Okay.
He was arrested 2 weeks later for her murder.
Wow, 2 weeks.
I know. So, they start looking into things with the family, and there was a lot of financial issues going on. So they ended up inheriting a large chunk of money from one of Ken's relatives. So they were worth about $2 million.
Oh.
And due to several failed business ventures and their just flagrant overspending, they ended up going bankrupt. So it got bad pretty fast, and they weren't going to be able to pay their mortgage soon, which was going to, become public. And Ken was mortified by this. Kristine, so the police interviewed some of her friends, and her friends told police that she was wanting to leave him and that she was going to just split the house, which, if you can't pay the mortgage, I feel like the house wasn't even going to be split. But whatever money was left, she wanted to take her half. No intention of screwing him over, but definitely wanted to leave him and take her half of the money. So, which I was thinking, I wonder if he knew that, though. I'm sure he suspected things weren't great between them because they probably weren't, and that was pretty obvious. But I wonder if he actually knew that she was going to leave. So during the interview, when Ken's being interviewed after Kristine's body is found, he's talking about, they're just letting him talk, and he's going on about the kids, and he refers to Justin, the oldest, as her son. His graduation was coming up, and the detective said, "Oh, you said her son. Is he not your son?" And he's like, "Oh no, our son. I meant our son." And he's like, "Okay." So
odd.
Right. So then they're in the house, the detectives, and there's a family photo out, and I don't know if I had sent you. Oh no, that is, so if you look below the luminol photo, it's that top left photo of them with the girl. I'm not sure who the girl is because they only had the boys. The one detective is like, that one son doesn't really look like anyone in this photo. That's interesting. So they dig a little bit, and they end up doing a paternity test, and Ken is not Justin's father. So they find out that his father is actually a man named Bob Brown. So years ago, Ken starts working with Bob at a job. They become friends.
Bob at a job. Yeah.
And
so I am looking at this. So we're saying that there's one. Okay, I know who. So there's a larger son, a taller,
the very tall son,
husky son.
Yes, that's the oldest. That's Justin, and that's who Ken referred to as her son.
Okay.
And the cop was like, "Well, wait,
okay.
Yeah."
So Bob's job.
So Bob and Ken are working together and become very close, and they're vacationing together. They all become very close. Now, when this friendship begins and this working relationship that turns into this very good friendship begins, they don't have kids. They don't have any kids yet.
How close are we talking?
So Kristine and Bob end up having an affair.
Yeah.
And no one seems to know. Ken obviously knew. I don't know when Ken found out, but she ends up getting pregnant. She tells Bob she had not had sex with anyone but him in the 4 months prior to the baby's conception. He's the father. Fine. So
one might say Justin was Bobby's boy.
Yes, correct.
Mm-hmm.
So Justin's born, but it's the narrative after Justin is born is that this is Ken's child. Everyone believes this. That's what everybody's told. It's not even up for debate.
Sounds reasonable.
Right. So this goes on for years, and Justin is never told. So it gets floated that Kristine's intention, which I think this is insane if this is what she thought. This is what Bob claims, that his graduation was going to be at the end of May, or so 2 weeks before her death. She was going to tell Justin after his graduation, potentially at the graduation, that Bob is actually his father, which sounds insane to me. You're going to publicly say that, humiliate Ken. You have no clue how Justin's going to react. And you think this is a good idea to do publicly at a kid's graduation from college?
Sounds strange.
Right. So maybe some of that got lost in the weeds and she just meant after the graduation occurred, not necessarily at the graduation, but the timing of when she planned supposedly to do this to when she was murdered seems to make sense. Like maybe Ken was trying to silence her.
Yeah.
But Bob struggled with drug and alcohol issues for years. So Ken and Kristine ended up paying like up to $19,000 to help him. He went to rehab multiple times, was not able to remain sober. So they did end up cutting him off. So there was no contact for years. So starting in 1994, that's when they severed contact with Bob. In 1999, he sent a postcard to them saying, "I'm clean. I changed my phone number. This is my new phone number." So he said shortly after that, Kristine called him and said, "Justin's going to be graduating soon. I plan to tell him, basically stay tuned." But she invited Bob to the graduation and then she's killed.
Yeah.
So what made Bob's testimony like a little shaky, he ended up getting into a severe motorcycle accident around this time. So when he was questioned by police after her death, he was in the hospital. He was still on narcotics. He failed to mention this phone call for a while, was a little shaky on why he failed to mention it. He just didn't.
Not reliable.
Right. He didn't.
Not a reliable witness.
Exactly. Right. I found the date. So she was killed May 5th. The graduation was May 20th. So
okay.
Very close. So Justin testified at the trial, which the poor kid, poor kid, can you imagine? And meanwhile, Ken's there at this trial listening to this, and Justin was 23 at the time. So he's getting questioned, and he said Bob was Justin's godfather, and he said we had a very close relationship. I did notice, I did seem to have a connection with him that was stronger than my brother had with him. Also, Kristine would take Justin and to vacations at Bob's house. So Bob had been a prominent attorney and was disbarred due to the drug and alcohol issues. But he had been very successful at one time. And I just thought that was kind of strange. Kristine would just take Justin alone to vacation at Bob's house. That's a little bizarre. Justin did say on the stand that, quote, "Did Robert Brown ever tell you that he was your biological father? No. Did your mother ever tell you that Robert Brown was your biological father? No." And then under cross-examination, he said nothing that Ken or Kristine ever did or treated him suggested that he had been anything other than their biological son together. He was never made to feel.
Nice.
Exactly. I know. I do feel bad for Ken in some ways I don't know. I mean, the fact that this affair went on and for so long, and they're still really trying to help this man. And who knows when he found out about the affair, but that had to be such a mind-boggling thing to process.
Well, yeah, especially when you keep them around.
Exactly.
Keep the affair partner around.
Exactly. And who knows when he then found, if you look at that one picture I sent you, that kid is the spitting image of Bob. And in the show, they were showing what Bob looked like through the years. They were very, very similar looking. Not that that means anything. Sometimes kids don't look like their parents, but then you have Bob, who's very closely connected to the family, and he looks just like him. It's just crazy. And who knows what age that started as Justin was getting older and older. And also how scary with Ken that happened over 20 years ago. Now, granted, the bankruptcy, the possible impending
what's
divorce.
Scary about that?
Ken sat on this all happening for that long before he decided to kill Kristine. You know what I mean? That's insane.
But I thought that we were saying he was potentially killing her because things were just kind of going to boil over now. Not like he was wanting to kill her for those past 19 years, but I thought it was more because the mortgage, they were gonna be embarrassed. Now she was gonna say, "Hey, by the way, I'm we're raising a kid that's only mine, not his. Like,
well, I think he knew that though. That's what I'm saying. Like, I don't.
But I'm saying I thought he was killing her because she was planning on making it public.
Right.
So I didn't think he was planning on killing her for like 19 years.
No, but that's what I'm saying. This has not been a new thing all these years. And then, yes, the
new thing though is the public information is what I'm trying to get out.
But still, how scary.
I guess we're back to the first sentence again. So yeah, how scary.
Very scary.
Very, very scary.
Yes. So, okay. So Ken gets sentenced to 15 years to life. It took 2 years for everything to finish with the trial.
I'm assuming he pled not guilty.
Yes.
Okay.
Because he insisted 5 different things were occurring that were not him.
Yeah.
Right. But he ended up getting released in February of 2012 due to Parkinson's disease. He had been hospitalized multiple times and it progressed rapidly. And so released February of 2012, he ended up dying that October at age 69.
Wow.
Very sad. So that's it.
Well, that's a sad tale.
He did file an appeal also, I forgot to tell you, and he lost.
Yeah, it all seemed a little too
convenient.
He was trying too hard.
Oh, I'm so glad you just said that. The main thing I wanted you wanted you to see.
I know.
I totally forgot about it. This is the whole point
I know. This was in the beginning of the story. This was what inspired was this incredible interrogation video, and she's ready to wrap it up before ever showing it to me. Hence why I dropped a clue.
Thank you, and I picked up on it.
Which I am kind of, because I wasn't going to do it. I thought if she's going to let it go, I'm letting it go.
Now, I will say, though, as you go to the note, it's not an incredible interrogation video. It's hysterical because, and that's the exact word that the detective used, like he was overacting so much throughout the entire interrogation. He's acting real calm. He's just kind of a little too easygoing. And then kind of out of nowhere, he explodes and goes bonkers. And it's so comical because none of it, it's just, he looks like such a loose cannon in this. It does not seem like, oh my God, this man who's grieving, his wife just snapped. He's not well. So please watch.
I will. And we'll be back.
I must have told her 6 times to get rid of the black shoes, and then she bought some red ones just like them. And she'd get dressed and she'd say, "How do I look?" And I say, "Well, fine, except I wouldn't wear those damn black shoes. You're gonna fall." And there they were on the stairs. Then I saw the black shoes. The goddamn black shoes!
That whole day. But this was just opinion, not proof.
Again.
It was like a person who was taking an acting class.
Yeah.
And they were testing out different styles.
Yes. Well, and so that reminds me, one of the things I wanted to say about this shoe that was still on the step, the one detective was saying how Ken trying to like plant this and stage the scene of the crime, the shoe, it didn't make any sense how the shoe fell, like where he claimed it landed on the 7th step. If she was going down, falling down the stairs, this appeared more like it was something that had happened going up the stairs, and it was in a position that it didn't make any sense for what he claimed or that he hypothesized happened, because he obviously wasn't there for the supposed fall.
Right.
But that was another thing. So, and honestly, on the show, they showed the shoe, and I suppose, I mean, God, I fall all the time in like freaking sneakers, so it doesn't matter. But this shoe it wasn't like a stiletto. Like it wasn't something that you would think would cause such a fall, but all in all, it doesn't matter because it didn't.
But who even knows if those shoes ever made her fall before?
Good call, man.
That's what I'm saying. I mean,
Good call.
You don't even have to dig that deep into those shoes, because he could have just been saying it about any shoe, slipper, galosh.
Absolutely.
So
one time I fell down the stairs and I had slippers on, and they were the kind, I guess they still have them, but I don't know, where like your toes would show, but it's like kind of like, well, you didn't see the shoe, like a slip-on where the fabric is over the top of the foot and the toes
like
can
a band.
Yes. And by the time I got to the bottom, they were like up by my knees. I had gone right through them. One of the many, many times I've fallen. Anyway.
Well, we're all glad you're all right.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Well, I guess I hope that at least these two brothers have not become estranged due to that.
It's so sad. And I mean...
Because now, neither of the parents obviously are in the picture.
Exactly. Both died.
But in a way, is the other father...
Bob is still alive and well.
Oh, okay.
They said, so after that motorcycle accident I told you about, they did not expect him to walk again. And it said when he came to the trial to testify, he could walk himself. He just now has to use a wooden cane. So he did, survive.
Now one wonders if Bob took the other son under his wing.
Oh, that's such
that would
a good
be nice.
point. Yes.
But
it's so tragic. I mean, it is just absolutely tragic. So that's it.
Well, thank you, Talia.
You're welcome, Brent.
Do you have any clothing?
I have the clothing that I'm wearing.
Do you have any closing thoughts on the case you presented?
I think it's very sad. I feel terrible for Kristine. Nobody should obviously be murdered. And
all right, yeah.
And it just breaks my heart. It happened in her own house. She probably thought nothing. Well, she probably was a little like, what are you doing here home? But she's just trying to have her muffin and coffee, man. I mean, leave her be. And I hope she was not conscious long. I hope she wasn't just sitting there dying as he's trying to clean up the blood. And just awful, just absolutely awful. And I hope those boys are doing well. I don't know how you really recover from that, especially not only that like you lost a parent to homicide, but that your other parent committed it.
It's that's
horrifying.
That's a very specific type of experience, one would imagine.
Exactly. And then he dies. Like, neither of them are even alive. Both of their parents are deceased. It's awful.
Well, not all their parents are deceased.
Very good point.
Thank
Bobo. You're right.
So.
You are right. So that's it.
All right. Well, thank you very much.
You're very welcome.
We will see everybody in the next episode of Chillworthy. So until then,
stay safe
and stay chill.
Bye, everybody.
Goodbye. You've just listened to Chillworthy. Thank you for joining us on this latest episode. While we strive to keep our discussions engaging and lighthearted, we also wanted to take a moment to acknowledge the real lives and events that are at the heart of these stories.
We try to approach each topic with a sense of curiosity and respect, fully aware of the impact these events have had on the individuals and their loved ones. Our goal is to honor their memories by keeping their stories alive and shedding light on the mysteries that surround them.
If you enjoyed this episode, please remember to subscribe, rate, and leave a review, and don't forget to join us on the next episode of Chillworthy.